So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our podcast. My name is Krishav Sarda, and our today's guest is Bhumit Kabra, who is currently in high school with multiple interests in many hobbies like boxing, learning different languages, chess, and sketching too. Also, he is a national level player in martial arts and state level player in chess. So, first of all, greetings to you, Bhumit. Nice to meet you. You told me you want to discuss something today, but you didn't tell me what it actually is. So I am as curious as everyone is listening right now.
Exactly, that's how I wanted it to be. Let me ask you something really quickly. When was the last time you told yourself that you will start tomorrow instead of actually doing the work?
Honestly, 3 days ago, when I have to study for my upcoming test.
Exactly, that right there is basically the entire topic we are going to talk on. Every student does this, every professional does this, even people who look extremely disciplined on the outside have said the exact same thing to themselves.
Okay, so we are talking about procrastination, right?
We are talking about procrastination, but not in the way people usually talk about it. We treat it like a character flaw. Like, I'm just lazy, but what if I told you it's not all about laziness, it's psychology. And once you understand the psychology behind it, you can actually hack it.
Wait, so there's an actual fix, not just try hard advice.
There's an actual fix, and I'm going to back it up with real research and real examples, not just some theories.
Now I am genuinely curious. Okay, let's get into it. So let's start with the real question. Why do we procrastinate? Because logically we know the deadline is coming, we know the consequences, so why doesn't we just start?
Okay, so there is a concept in psychology called present bias. Basically, our brain values an immediate reward way more than a future reward, even if the future reward is bigger.
Can you give us some examples so our viewers can understand this better?
Okay, your assignment is due in 5 days. If you finish it right now, the reward is nothing really, but just some relief later. But if you open Instagram right now, the reward is instant, dopamine immediately.
So your brain is literally choosing the guaranteed instant dopamine over the uncertain future relief?
Exactly. And there's a researcher, Dr. Piers Still, who studied this for years. He says procrastination isn't about time management, it's about emotion management. We are just not avoiding a task, we are avoiding the feeling that task gives us: stress, boredom, fear of failure, and fear of failing as well.
Okay, that hits different because I always thought people procrastinate because they're bad at planning.
That's the common belief everyone has, but the research says otherwise. Most procrastination is fear of failure procrastination, and it's one of the most common types among students, specifically because in school your works get graded, compared, judged, so your brain protects you by saying that if you don't start, there is nothing which makes you fail.
It sounds protective, but it's actually self-sabotage.
100%. And here's a concrete one. Think about a student who has a project due in 2 weeks. Day 1, they open the laptop, stare at the blank page for 10 minutes and close it, not because they are lazy, because that blank page represents the possibility of doing it badly, and avoiding it feels safer than facing it.
That's heavy because that's basically describing half the people listening right now.
And you know, it even gets worse actually, because there's something called procrastination guilt cycle. You delay the task, you feel guilty, the guilt creates more and more stress, and more stress makes you want to escape into distraction again. So the avoidance literally feeds itself.
So the guilt isn't even helping, it's fuel for the exact behavior you are trying to stop.
Right, and that's why yelling at yourself, why am I like this, never works in long term. The fix isn't more guilt, it's a different relationship with task itself.
Okay, give me one more type because I feel like there's a different flavors of procrastination, right? Fear of failure is one. What else is there?
Yeah, there's also what researchers call perfectionist procrastination. This one is sneaky because it disguises itself as a high standard. The person tells themselves, I am not starting because I want to do it properly, not half-heartedly. Sounds responsible, right? But functionally, it's the exact same avoidance. They are just dressing it up in a nicer language.
Oh, I know people exactly like that. They'll spend 3 hours planning a workout routine instead of just going on a 5 minutes walk.
Exactly that. The planning feels productive, so the brain gets a little reward from it. But zero actual progress happens. It's procrastination wearing a very nice disguise.
Okay, so if guilt doesn't work and willpower doesn't seem to work either, and even good instincts like perfectionism can secretly be procrastination, what actually does work?
That's exactly where we are going next. So there's a book called Atomic Habit by James Clear. Most people have heard the name, but I don't think people actually understand the math behind it.
What math? Isn't it a habit book?
Just wait. So the idea is simple. If you get just 1% better every single day for one full year, you don't end up 365% better. You end up 37 times better.
Please explain it again for our audience.
37 times because it's not addition, it's compounding. 1.01 multiplied by itself 365 times equals roughly 37%.
That's insane when you actually sit with it, because most students think improvement has to be this huge dramatic thing. I need to study 8 hours a day starting tomorrow, and then day 2 they burn out and quit completely.
Right, and that's the trap. James Clear's whole argument is you don't need motivation, you need a system. Tiny, boring, repeatable actions, 1% isn't even visible day to day. Nobody's clapping for you because you read 5 pages extra today.
Wait, but if it's invisible, why doesn't everyone just give up?
That's exactly why most people quit early. The results are invisible at first. James Clear calls this the plateau of latent potential. You are improving the whole time, but it doesn't show up immediately. So people give up right before the breakthrough. It's like an ice cube in a room that's slowly heating up. 25 degrees, 26, 27, nothing happens. The ice still looks like the same. Then it hits 32 degrees and suddenly it melts all at once.
So the 1 degree that finally melted, it wasn't actually special.
Exactly. Is that the work before it built the conditions? Okay, here's another example of exact same thing. Jerry Seinfeld, when he was still a struggling comedian, used a method like this. Someone asked him how he writes such good jokes consistently. And he said the trick was never about writing a good joke. It was about writing one joke every single day, no matter how small. He would put a big red X on a wall calendar every day. He did it. And his only rule was that just don't break the chair.
So wait, he wasn't even trying to write a good joke each day.
Exactly. He didn't measure himself by saying that was today's joke funny. He measured himself by did I show up today? And that's the 1% rule in real life. Because over years that single joke a day built one of the most successful comedy careers ever. Not one big breakthrough, thousands of tiny ones that nobody ever saw.
Okay, can you give us some more example like that, because I think people need to hear this twice before it actually sticks with them.
Sure. Think about anyone who's ever successfully built a gym habit from scratch. The people who actually stick with fitness long term almost never start with I'm going to do gym for 2 hours every day. That's the version that burns out by week 2. The ones who actually give it up usually start with something almost embarrassingly small. I'm just going to put on my shoes and walk to the gym. Some days that's literally all they do. They walk in, look around and leave. That's it.
That sounds like a waste of trip.
It sounds like a waste, but it's not. Because the goal was never the workout. The goal was making going to gym easy. Something your identity does automatically without a debate every single day. Once showing up becomes boring and automatic, the actual exercise takes care of itself. James Clear has a phrase for this exact idea. Every action is a vote for the type of person you want to become. Walking in the door and leaving is still a vote. A small one, but a vote.
Wait, isn't that the opposite of what everyone tells you? Everyone says, do more.
Every single time, doing less but consistent beats doing a lot occasionally. That's the whole 1% rule in one sentence.
Okay, but how does this actually help with procrastination? Can you specify our viewers?
So here's the trick. You don't beat procrastination by trying to do the whole task, you beat it by shrinking it to 1%. If you have an assignment due and you keep avoiding it, don't tell yourself I need to finish the whole thing. Tell yourself I'll just start, open the document and write the title. That's it. That's your 1% today.
Wait, why does that even work? Isn't the assignment still just a big thing either?
That's the key. Your brain isn't actually scared of the assignment. It's scared of the size of the assignment. Make the habit so small it's almost stupid not to do it. 2 minutes, 1 page, 1 rep, because starting is always the hardest part. And once you start, momentum does the rest.
Does this connect to what you said earlier about emotional management?
That's exactly the connection. Psychology tells us why we resist. The 1% rule tells us how to bypass that resistance.
Okay, now let's zoom out from individual habits to something bigger. Because this 1% idea, it's not just personal, brands and even entire national sports team have used this exact principle to build empires. Can you give us some examples?
Alright, let's start with the one of the most popular brand that most people already have know, Nike. Most people know the slogan, just do it. Everyone's seen it on a shoe, a t-shirt, and ad with some athlete sprinting in slow motion.
Iconic, yeah, but why did that specific slogan work so well? It's just 3 words.
So here's the thing, Nike didn't just create a tagline, they realized their biggest competition wasn't Adidas or Reebok. It was inaction. It was people's own internal excuses.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Think about it. The number one reason someone doesn't go for a run isn't lack of shoes. It's I'm tired, I will start tomorrow, I'll start Monday, it's raining. Basically, procrastination dressed up as 100 different excuses.
Okay, so how does that tie back to what we had been talking about? So, they were not really selling shoes at all.
They were selling a decision. Just do it. Isn't about fitness. It's a direct attack on the exact mental loop we have been talking about this whole episode. The gap between intention and action. And here's the part most people miss. Almost every ad showed ordinary people, not just some elite athletes. A kid running alone at 5 am, an old man finishing a marathon last. The message wasn't be the best, it was just start, regardless of where you are.
Okay, so how does this tie back to what we are talking about earlier?
It's literally the 1% principle in branding form, and the numbers back it up. When Nike launched Just Do It in 1988, their revenue was around $877 million. Within 10 years, it crossed over 9 billion. That's not just good marketing. That's an entire population of people slowly changing their identity. One small action at a time because of those 3 words.
Okay, so that's a brand most people already know. Can you give us some more example that people hasn't known the full story on?
This one's actually my favorite. British cycling. So before 2003, British cycling was basically a joke on the world stage. In its entire history up to that point, they had won exactly 1 Olympic gold medal. Only 1 in almost a century.
Oh, that's rough.
It's brutal. One bike manufacturer even refused to sell the British team their bikes because they was embarrassed to be associated with how bad the team was.
Damn, that's actually cold.
Then in 2003, a guy named Dave Brailsford takes over as a performance director as well as a coach, And instead of looking for one big fix, he comes up with this idea called the aggregation of marginal gains. His exact rule was break down everything that goes into riding a bike and improve each piece by just 1%.
Can you specify what does 1% improvement on a bike seat even look like?
That's the crazy part. They didn't stop at obvious stuff. Yeah, they redesigned the bike seats, tested wind tunnel suits, optimized nutrition. But they also went further we can't even imagine. They found the most comfortable pillow for each rider and had them carry to every hotel, everywhere they go. Because better sleep means better recovery. They hired a surgeon to teach the rider the correct way to wash their hands, just to reduce the chances of getting sick. They even painted the inside of truck pure white, so they could spot a single speck of the dust that might mess with the bike mechanics.
Oh, that's insane attention to details. None of that sounds like it would matter on its own.
That's exactly the point. On its own, painting a truck white means nothing. But Brailsford's whole bet was that dozen of these 1% improvement stacked together would compound into something very massive. And it did. At the 2008 Beijing Olympics, just 5 years after he started, the British team won 8 out of 14 gold medals available in track cycling. They repeated their dominance in London in 2012. And in 2012, Bradley Wiggins became the first ever British cyclist in over 100 years of the Tour de France to win it.
Wait, from one gold medal in a century to dominate the Olympics? That's a massive jump for 1% changes.
That's the exact same math as 1.01 to the power of 365. Just applied to a bike instead of a calendar. Identical math, right? Different sport. He didn't find one miracle fix. He found 100 tiny ones nobody else was even looking for.
So between Nike and British Cycling, we have got a brand and a sports team. Is there any third type of example? Something more ordinary like a regular business?
Yeah, so there's actually a really clean one in retail as well. A lot of people don't realize that companies like Amazon build their entire reputation not on one genius idea, but on relentless small operational improvements. Shaving seconds of delivery times, improving warehouse layouts by tiny percentages, testing micro changes to checkout pages.
Can you give us the feeling for how much small we are talking about?
We are talking things like testing whether a button being slightly different shade of orange gets more click. Testing whether moving a delivery estimate 2 pixels to the left changes whether people complete checkout on their own. Any single one of those tests mean nothing, almost nothing. You wouldn't even notice it happened.
That sounds borderly obsessive.
It is obsessive. That's exactly the point. None of those individual changes are headline news. But stacked over 20 years across millions of transactions, those 1% tweaks are a huge part of why the company became the default place people shop. Nobody outside the company ever sees 99% of those tests. They just experience the end result, which feels like, whoa, this is just easy to use.
So is this really the same principle across all three? A shoe brand, a cycling team, and an online business store feels completely different.
Same principle, three totally different industries, three completely different decades. The brain doesn't care if the task is an assignment, a workout, or a startup idea. The resistance is to start is the same, the fix is the same, shrink it down and stack it daily.
So what's the one-line version of all of this?
Okay, so start small, start early as you can, start before you feel ready. Stop waiting to feel ready or motivated. Identity comes after action, not before it. You don't think your way into becoming disciplined. You act your way into it. One rep at a time, the same way Brailsford did it with the bike seat and Seinfeld did it with a red marker.
It's kind of wild that the same math, 1% compounded daily, shows up in an Olympic gold medal, a global sneak brand, and a guy writing one joke a day in his apartment.
That's honestly the most important thing to take from this whole segment. The scale changes, the principle never does.
Okay, so let's bring this all the way back to the start. We opened this episode talking about procrastination, connected for us, psychology, the 1% rule, and these brand examples into one takeaway.
So here's how I would connect it. Success isn't one big decision, it's not the day I finally became disciplined. Success is the sum of 1,000 tiny 1% decisions that nobody ever saw you make. The same way British Cycling didn't win gold from one upgrade and Seinfeld didn't get good from one joke.
So, is the procrastination basically the same thing or in reverse?
Exactly, it's 1,000 tiny avoidance that nobody ever saw. Which means the real battle for success isn't fought in some dramatic moments. It's fought at 11 pm when you choose to close Instagram and open your notes for 2 minutes instead.
That's basically the entire episode in one line.
So if you are listening to this and you have been putting something off, an assignment, a habit, a goal, the takeaway isn't go change your whole life today. It's open the document and write one line, put on your shoes and walk for 2 minutes. Read one page, 1%. That's literally it. That's the whole secret.
But what if we do all that and still don't see any results? Do you have any advice?
Okay. I would say trust the process even when you don't see results immediately, because remember the ice cube. The change is happening before it's visible. Same with British Cycling in 1 year. Nobody saw the gold medals coming yet. They were already winning it. It just hadn't shown up on the scoreboard.
That's the most explicit conversation I have ever had on procrastination.
This has genuinely been one of my favorite conversations as well on procrastination.
If this episode hit you somewhere, share it with that friend who keeps saying, I'll start tomorrow. Tag us and send it to them. Whatever, because honestly, they need to hear this today, not tomorrow. And if you got values from this, make sure you would subscribe to the channel because we've got more episodes like this coming. I am Krishav, the host, and remember, you don't need motivation. You need 1% today. Just do it. See you in the next time. Bye bye.